this episode, I conclude my series on orders by sharing some ideas about restrictions. I propose a new rule that could help me out in a zombie apocalypse, and I share some ways to embed your favourite NPCs into your campaigns. Welcome to the Mythras Matters Podcast, Season 1, Episode 66, Secret Societies and Unforgettable NPCs. Hello and welcome to Mythras Matters, a podcast dedicated to the Mythras rule set and all its supplements. As always, I'm your host Inwils, and welcome to, here we go, February. Yes, we're back to the month that I can't say, but after 66 episodes, you should be used to it by now. If you've been catching up with our actual plays, including the new podcast version, you will know that we have been playing Destined for some time. And I have to admit, I was pretty apprehensive about starting a superhero campaign. I always wanted to play the DC Heroes and Champions MMOs on the PC. There is something quite special about flying through the air using telepathy. I started playing Golden Heroes in my early 20s and really enjoyed it, although this was just a one-off session. I created a whole cityscape out of polystyrene packaging and had heroes attacking aliens and villains. I must admit, I only organised the session because I bought a blister pack of superheroes and had recently painted them all. Before Destined hit the shelves, I did buy Mutants and Masterminds. Or is it Masterminds and Mutants? I always forget. I found that system so difficult to understand that I actually never got into it, and it's still sitting on my shelf here. So I was very pleased when we could get into our Lycra and supersuits with Destined. I was concerned about the setting, to create the right feel for the setting and for the campaign when we started to play. I didn't want to play the dark, sinister DC Batman style of play, and I thought the X-Men universe would be too involved and would make the supers too powerful. It was then that I watched the series The Boys on Amazon Prime, and I decided to try and recreate a campaign world where heroes were assets of major companies. Added to this, the players have also added an element of humour to the game, which has helped to create the right sort of atmosphere. We have gone from a very serious and deadly game of fantasy Mythras to one that the high numbers on the damage rolls just mean that thugs are flying through the air and that bullets often cannot hit the speeder as she launches into combat. With Misty taking Vapor form and Rabbit using super speed, they can both investigate and recon areas so effectively, which has made me think about encounters and how they will be able to gather information about them before they happen. We also, I decided to go with the non-lethal approach, so rather than Banner taking everyone's head off when he chucks his shield, they are just knocked unconscious. I have to admit, I'm enjoying that aspect of the campaign as well as the general humour that has been developed. Summing up, I have really enjoyed the campaign, and it has definitely allowed me to extend my GM skills when designing adventures for the sessions. And we have so much more to enjoy yet. We have already included vehicles and some heavy weapons, but more of those to come in the future games. And then I want to implement that peril system. Anyway, if you're in two minds about trying a superhero campaign, then I would say give it a go. Start with the one-off and see what you think. The pre-made adventure called Power Outage and Agony and Ecstasy are both available and are really fun. And if you are not keen on the genre, then I would love to know why, so please let me know in the comments. Later on in this episode, I'm going to complete my series of orders by looking at restrictions, and I'm also going to look at creating memorable NPCs for your campaign. But first, I have a question that might actually save me in a zombie apocalypse. Whoever created the actual combat system for Mythras was, in my view, a pure genius. It amazes me how you can apply it to anything from fisticuffs to grenade launchers. One aspect of firearms that I have always been intrigued about is semi and full automatic fire. I always liked the front cover of the Shadowrun rulebook, where that had the street samurai armed with two Uzi submachine pistols ready to rain bullets down on the corporate security guards. Now, I am not proficient in combat. If there is ever a zombie apocalypse, my only weapons would be harsh language or attempt to use my academic language to bore them to death. But if I did have a weapon, I would probably switch it to full auto in the hope I hit something while pulling the trigger. But this is when I have a bit of an issue with the rules. When I use semi-automatic or full automatic, the difficulty grade increases, making it harder to actually hit. Surely, if I am spraying a whole area with bullets, it should be easier to hit? The current rules seem to say that it is harder to hit, but when you do get hit, you take more damage from a lot of bullets. I was wondering whether this should actually be reversed, making it easier to hit, but you get hit with less bullets. I imagine firing on full auto, spraying an area in front of me. As my opponents dive for cover, would it not be easier to hit at least one of them? More bullets being fired in the general direction should mean easier to hit. So why do the rules make it harder? Please help. Otherwise, my opponents firing on full auto are never going to hit a brick wall, let alone a character. As ever, please respond in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you all support me for easier full automatic fire rules to save me from the zombie apocalypse. I think all GMs have one, their favourite NPC that they ensure keeps coming back again and again and again in their campaigns. I know I definitely do. There is nothing more reassuring as slipping back into the character of a reoccurring NPC, their mannerisms and their voice. Coupled with this, I love to see the faces on the players or the exclamations of surprise or dread as that familiar NPC returns. But how do you create these NPCs so that they are unique and entertaining? Well, I thought I would share with you the 3 aspects of my NPCs that I always include or think about when I am actually creating them. Okay, so the first point I would say is give them unique traits. When you're crafting NPCs, make sure they have distinctive traits that make them stand out. This could be a quirky habit, a unique accent, or a memorable experience. These traits help players remember and engage with the characters, adding depth to your campaign world. There is a danger of falling into stereotypes at this point, or making them so unique that they're implausible. But with careful thinking and creativity, you can give them a unique trait that actually makes them unique. To keep them real, I have created myself a checklist. First, I think about the appearance. I imagine the NPC in my mind and then write down what the players will see when they first encounter them. I start from their appearance, head to toe, and then I consider in more detail their face. As well as what they look like, I also think about how they smell, how they move, and their personality. The latter I add to the NPC sheet, which provides me with a quick reminder when they appear again. I also add about their voice. Now, at this point, I have to say that I am no voice actor, so the majority of my NPCs end up sounding exactly the same as my normal voice, but I do like to add specific phrases or general tone for them. After the encounter has happened the first time, I do expand their notes to remind me next time how they interacted with the party. Using this approach, I created that wonderful cartographer Sylvester McCoon, the aged, incredibly rude cartographer who lives in the city of Lindo. I enjoy many interactions with the party before they left Lindo to travel further afield. Sylvester's rudeness became an essential part of his interactions, and certain members of the party loathed having to engage with him. To be honest, I'm quite amazed that no one actually went up and hit him. Next up are backstories. Now, I need to confess at this point that I am not a great believer of lengthy backstories for characters. I think sometimes players create so much of a backstory that are really lengthy and involved, then the character would have no reason to actually adventure. I think that character should come to the campaign ready to be developed rather than being completed. However, when it comes to NPCs, I adore detailed backstories that add to their character. You should always try to create rich stories for your NPCs, even if only a snippet is shared with the players. A well thought out history provides motivation for their actions and decisions, making them feel like real living parts of the world. Think about how the NPC fits into your campaign, the past, present, and future. What did they do before they embraced their current role, and what plans do they have for the future? You do not need to be extensive with this. Initially, you just need to capture a few bullet points. I also start a file on every NPC, and as the campaign progresses, I add information about their desires and goals. In this way, you can have one of the NPCs become an integral part of a whole adventure. An example of this would be Basil Earless, the owner of the Hairy Hobgoblin Inn in Lindo. Basil was the first point of contact for the party when they entered the town, and they still use their table in his inn as a meeting point for many adventures. Basil lost an ear, hence his second name, but how this happened is still a mystery to most people. He does, however, often regale the patrons with stories of his fights and the mythical beasts that almost took off his head rather than just an ear. From the bumbling ogres to the deadly chimera, according to Basil, they all took his ear. Maybe one day the party might know how it actually happened. Well, maybe. But Basil became a centre of a whole adventure when the party returned to find that there was a rival tavern opposite the Hairy Hobgoblin. With Basil's profits and clientele dwindling, the party needed no encouragement to help Basil to save his tavern and their favourite drinking hole. And finally, let those NPCs develop and possibly return. When creating an NPC, you need to think about what part they're going to play in the campaign. Some of my NPCs I don't even have a file on. They appear and then promptly disappear, never to be seen again. These are the NPCs that the party want to engage with, but I didn't plan for the interaction. The old sailor sat on the crates on the pier. The old man in the tavern telling the party where to find someone. The old woman who wails and warns the party of an approaching doom. I've just realised that all of them seem to be old. However, with the NPCs that I want to integrate into the world, I like to think about how they are developing and whether I want them to reappear in the campaign. The party once did a job for Annalyn the alchemist and his nasally apprentice Sniffen. You can use the same adventure if you want. It's on the RPG shop called Aiding the Alchemist and is available for download for an amazingly cheap price of £2.50. I know, so cheap. When I created Annalyn, I knew that the party would encounter him again. By his actions, some people in the party tolerated him, while others, well, they hated him. Making the party needing to engage with him again led to some fantastic role-playing and gave me the opportunity to annoy some of the characters by giving a smug smile every now and again. But the NPC that developed the most in the campaign has to be Melanie. Believe it or not, Melanie was an incidental NPC that was not old, but was never meant to be part of the campaign. She was a member of the Blue Sorcery Order and ran messages around the town, as was the job of the Low Order members. Known as the Bluebirds, she delivered a message to Cyrus, a member of the Red Sorcery Order. Cyrus made fun of her and told her that she should join a better order and sent her on her way. Little did Cyrus know that at that moment he gave her and me an idea. Melanie did join the Red Order as directed, but also rose quicker through the ranks than Cyrus did, meaning that she became his nemesis. And who created that nemesis? Well, Cyrus himself. I did enjoy bringing Melanie back again and again, and possibly again in the future. Letting your NPCs develop allow you as the GM to have multiple characters across the campaign world, and with careful planning, you can fill the party with either delight or instant distaste, if or when they reappear. So spend some time with your NPCs and let them become an integral part of your campaign. And if you have any other advice about creating or managing NPCs in your campaign, then please do share them in the comments. Before the last segment on orders, I would like to ask you all to participate in the podcast. I like sharing my ideas with you all, but I know there are many very experienced GMs or players out there that will also have great advice to give that we could all learn from. So I would like to include a regular segment on the podcast that you can be part of. All you need to do is record a clip stating who you are, possibly just your name on Discord, etc., and your own GM or player tip that you would like to share with everyone. It doesn't matter if you are a new GM or a highly experienced one. It would be great to hear from you. They don't know yet, but I'm going to ask the people who work for the design mechanism as well. So if you're listening, Loz, Rodney, Clarence, Brian, Rael, Soph and Kat, etc., then get your recording software up and running. Once you have recorded your advice, then save it as a WAV file and email it to me at inwils@gmail.com. Or if you prefer to record it on your mobile device, then just send it to me as an MP3. Both will work absolutely fantastically. Oh, and if you have time, let's add your favorite Mythras publication to it. I'll post a proposed script in the show notes, but you can deviate from that if you wish. I am looking forward to having this as a regular feature, so do have a go and send in your advice. We have been talking about orders for several episodes, and I've been saving this segment until last, the restrictions. The core rulebook gives oaths, superstitions, and other obligations to consider. I don't want to repeat this information, but add some more that you might be able to use in your campaigns. I always think being part of an order is an honour, and because of this, a character should be prepared for some negatives. Initially, I would always say that you should co-create these with the player so that they have some idea of what they're letting themselves in for. But some orders might only be known about as the campaign progresses. And with these orders, you need to create the restrictions beforehand. So first up, secret societies. Being part of an order can bring a reputation boost to any member. If the order is well known for its deeds or its members, then a player can hold their head up high knowing that they are a member of their ranks. But some orders exist, but their members are not known. Rather than advertising themselves with badges of honour, they hide themselves behind secret signs and handshakes. These orders can provide great benefits for the character, but part of the agreement is to keep the existence of their membership a secret. Many players will be very good about this, completing certain tasks with the rest of the party not knowing what is going on at all. But imagine when the player meets someone who is speaking detrimentally about the order. This is when willpower or a passion check will be needed to prevent the character giving away something that they shouldn't. Next up, changing reputations. I really enjoyed the Dragonlance books, especially the characters of Raistlin and Sturm Brightblade. The latter was a Knight of the Crown for Solomnia. Both of these characters wore one of their restrictions, their armour and robes, that clearly identified their membership. I like this restriction on characters because it is clear what order they belong to. But what I like to do, and perhaps this shows me as a rather devious or even possibly a nasty GM, is to change the reputation of their order during the campaign. I've talked about my sorcery orders extensively on this podcast. Yes, I can see you all nodding. But what I haven't talked about is my possible plan for the future of these orders. Players at this point, beware. Imagine what would happen if the orders fall into disrepute and the members of the orders are actively sought out and destroyed. This will present the members with a very interesting predicament. Do they continue to wear their robes, or do they remove them and pretend that they were never involved with the orders? As a newbie player, I would consider my response to this for some time. As a GM, I like putting players into situations that they need to think about. Whatever they decide to do, there is a possibility that they become the sole member of that order, or even they might have some fast talking to do if they remove their badge of honor and disown the order, only to find that the order once again returns to glory. Roll those social skills, please. And finally, what they know. Imagine that you have the answer to something but can't tell anyone. Or even better, you have a power or ability you are banned from using. This predicament could be a basis of the last restriction. I'm not the best at keeping a secret. I'm too much of a gossip, but be reassured I am able to keep things confidential. I imagine characters might have the same personality traits as me, or might even not be able to keep anything a secret, whether it is confidential or not. For this last restriction, I like to imagine that an order has the answer to some question. Whether this be something that will impact on the world, like on an apocalyptic scale, or just the remedy for the king's recent illness, the members of the order will be sworn to secrecy and not allowed to divulge the answer at any cost. The order might be related to medicine or herbalism, or they might all be seers that have been given a glimpse of the future. I'm reminded of that fight scene in the Marvel film when Doctor Strange raises one finger to signal to Iron Man that this scene was the one that mattered. When they join the order, members might be given false information and then tested to see if they will share this. The trials might include being captured, or the rest of the party being threatened, or even just the promise of immense riches and or great power. Only by passing this test will this great secret be shared with them. But once they have the secret, when will they share it? Or will they take it to their grave? Imagine who might want this information and what they are prepared to do to gain it. I would also wait until the party is in the middle of something before making someone appear promising or threatening the character for the information. I think the possibilities for situations with this restriction are numerous, from assassins to rulers, from the simple hermit wanting to cure or to save his young daughter, to one of the party members slowly fading away from a disease, and another party member having the restriction to keep the cure to themselves. Of course, you may not let the players decide whether they share this information, but refer to a roll of the dice. They could have a passion related to the order and pass the information on via a fumble roll. Then it would be time to turn the tables, and rather than keeping a secret, the character may be running from the people who trusted them with the secret. Initiative, anyone? I really enjoyed talking about orders and sharing with you all some ideas and possible content for your campaigns. I hope you've enjoyed the discussions and have something useful to implement. If there are any other aspects of the game that you would like to appear in the podcast, then please let me know. It is always the same email, inwils@gmail.com. And that's it. Another episode of Mythras Matters completed. Don't forget you can check out all my content by following my YouTube channel and the campaign areas on World Anvil. You can find adventures and encounters as digital downloads in my RPG shop. And if you would like to become a member of the orders that support all my RPG work, then you can find out about them on my Ko-fi site. I really appreciate your support, and do check out the Discord and the Tapper Talk forums. There are great people there sharing ideas within the discussions. So until next time, have a great month of gaming, and I will chat to you all again in March. Until then, I hope all your posed roles are successful and provide you with a well-deserved special. Thanks for listening, everyone. See ya. Bye. The content of this podcast is covered by the Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, so please give appropriate credit if you are sharing or copying any part of this podcast. Thank you.